Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the player ranked #1 in the world by Dark. And the final boss, it's Dark. And his longtime Protoss nemesis in the blue, we have Classic. A best of 3 Protoss versus Zerg showdown. The last time they faced, Classic swept the floor with Dark, but Dark starting things off quite dramatically. A pylon at the gold, a forge in production, and very little time for me to beg you for likes, and if you haven't made it there yet, maybe even subscribes. And Jimmy, what are we? Hurry! 1,380 likes on this video, on this cast, on this cannon rush. And I'll cast another one. I'll probably do it anyway, so I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit cheesier. A cannon rush on the gold. Dark has to have known that this was a possibility, even a probability nowadays on this map. 2 cannons on the way. He tried to pull the drones to defend, but now they've just gone back home. A queen is in production, and behind it, Classic's just expanding. Overlord tanks a couple hits. Not sure if that was intentional. A roach ward is on the way. It looks like Dark is going to use the base as a decoy. By finishing it, he goes a long way to convincing Classic he's going to try to defend it. But the two ships passing in the night there as they realize both of them passed each other. Queen's on the way, and a drone actually mining through the mineral wall, giving a better opportunity for Dark to maneuver units around. He's using the one drone he produced at the gold base in order to open up opportunity. Brenda! And we're walking. Alright, Dark gonna ignore that part of things. The Zerglings get into the base. Roach is in production. The hatchery is dead. Long live the hatchery. Queen tries to shut it down, but no creep. Another queen walking across the map. The pilgrimage will continue as both queens are on their way towards the natural. I don't think Dark has any long-term plans for this game. Roaches are on the way. He knows he needs anti-air, and the only way he can get it is by putting the queens through severe joint pain. But, well, it's going to be a roach-ling all-in. I don't know if this was the plan when the cannon rush started, but here we are. Cannon and shield battery on the way, as well as an oracle in production. Zergling speed is done. The battery almost drained of energy, but there should be enough energy for a shield battery overcharge at the last possible second. What a save on the Adept to hold the line. But the queens, slowly but, well, slowly, making their way across the map. As the Oracle comes out, though, probably not expecting the long-winded flank. The Ravager on the run. And, well, the Queen's a little late to save the first one. Not going to be able to transfuse. Actually misses a shot. Trying to get... Oh, no. The Knitting Needle's not quite able to puncture enough of the Oracle to take it out. But Dark looking to break through. He's got a Ravager that some strong words could potentially kill. But thankfully, Protoss can't say him because they don't have mouths. A Baneling Nest is on the way. That Oracle rebuilding energy. He actually built such a wall, he had to shade around to the other side. Susan, get over here! Hurry up! There's a Void Ray! A Void Ray just flies over. Brenda, why did they get to fly? Susan, shut up, Susan. Dark kind of stalled out. A single Ravager is optimistic. A Baneling Nest on the way. But he's got quite a spread on the shield batteries and the cannons. That's going to make it very difficult. Oracle lights up again, looking to kill it off, but the Queen's still not able to kill it. Void Ray comes in from the side, and the Queens are doing their best, but it doesn't look like it's good enough. The setup is already there. The same defenses for a Ravager all-in work for Banelings, though the Banelings going to crash through. They're almost all that. No, that's just a W. Just a single W. The Korean letter on the keyboard for G. But even then, certainly not a GG, as Dark clearly a bit frustrated by the failure of, well, really every part of that. A classic tactic, but it works out. The cannon rush onto the gold, and Classic continues his streak against the final boss. I don't know. It's been figured out. The gold base, not even Dark can make it work. He can't use it. to kind of swerve into some sort of cheese-filled all-in. Classic reading that from half the map away, and the queens are not the fastest creatures. In fact, they're almost besides Sloverlords, I think they are the slowest creatures in the game, actually. So, not there in time to help out and keep those Ravagers alive. But we're going to Site Delta for Game 2. Doc gets the hatch a moment before the probe can poke its metaphorical probe nose in. I don't know if that's metaphorical, and I don't know if it's important, but at least able to expand to the natural. Classic not doing the very quick probe scout. I think he scouted off a pylon, which means Dark just barely able to slip the hatchery in. And now, drops down the spawning pool. Designated probe mineral flirting time. As the drones and the probe fight each other on either side of the minerals to convince the minerals that they want to be mined. The probe, of course, he's just waving his gather hotkey around the minerals in order to try to bounce the drones off, which is, and this is true, very annoying. Well, really, for the Zerg. Dark at 700, he's at 1500 APM, because what he's doing is he's holding down the gather key, which is almost never used except for this exact scenario, in order to make sure his drones convince the mineral patch that they actually want to be here. So he takes a little bit longer to mine each one, because the probe is constantly, that slutty probe wants to mine all the minerals, and now it will finally take some home, which means it's been bespoiled and can no longer flirt with any more minerals because clearly it's taken. In other sentences that I probably won't repeat and probably have never been said before. Stargate on the way, which is the opposite of that last statement, but Stargate on the way as we move into a much more predictable early game. Classic committed to the double cannon. I feel like Dark would have tried to break out if Classic didn't finish both cannons. One cannon doesn't always get the job done. The Zergling's thinking about poking in, but the Adept stayed back and is boxing out both sides. Gets one hit on one Zergling, one hit on another Zergling, and there's another Adept to prevent them from getting in. Classic covering his bases in every sense. And now an Oracle on the way. Adept shades across. The probe was still around, finally coming back home. Queen, waiting for his opportunity. Overlord wandering in. Or at least up to the pervert pillar. It's not time to really wander in yet. Checking for the two gases at the natural gives you a good idea of what the follow-ups can potentially be. Zergling's looking for the surround. Queen's getting some damage on it as well. Trying to cut through, but held down and knocked out. Adept ripped to shreds, I say. 10 more Zerglings on the way. Not just looking to shut down Adepts, but potentially pressure the third base. Which is not something that Zergs are always able to do. The Oracle going to be forced back. Only 5 Zerglings for now. Get through the shields. And doing any permanent hold damage might set him up for a better timing later on. And again, the Oracle's whoa, that's not a wall! It was an invisible, the probe's like, stop right there. And the Zerglings turn around. They did bait out the activation of at least one Oracle, so that's something. An Eclipse build. The Mass Adept follow-up. This is the build that Dark and Solar were crushed by. From Classic and Trap in the last week or two. And I'm sure there were some more victims out there with less notoriety, but now this is Dark's opportunity to show he knows how to deal with it. It's such a difficult kind of needle to thread. How many drones do you build? How much defense do you need? Because it's very hard to read exactly what you're dealing with until it's almost too late. So, if you underbuild Zerglings or any basic defense, I think at this point seeing 6 Adepts is a tell. Yeah, he starts a Bane Nest. 3 Adepts? Okay. 4 Adepts? Maybe. Anything more than that? Well, that's a trend. That's an idea. And these oracles won't die. Just kidding. Get off my creep! Brent? Oh, don't burst a creep tumor. Shut up. No. Meanwhile, more lings on the way. Baneling nest. Nearly done. A whole lot of Zerglings. +1 melee. Still pretty far off. And Classic is still building probes behind this. That's the key part. You're not all in. You just are keeping the pressure on and really limiting the Zerg economy just by these Adepts existing. But Dark is looking to face it head on. Shades all the way through. Oracle, Stasis in the main. Adept still slicing through mostly the Zerglings, maybe getting a few drones in there. Possibly could cancel, decides against it, gets to the main base. Only a couple drones so far. Another, into the third. Dark minimizing damage relatively well, but 8 drones dead. And it's not getting much easier. He had the Bane Nest, but the Banelings were just too late. He didn't end up building them at all. +1 melee is done the moment the last Adept is cleaned up. And now Classic has an 18 worker lead. He's building 4 sentries. He's getting Immortals, as well as a Forge. So he has the tools to defend Dark's counterattack. And Dark is kind of forced into an all-in position. Adepts shade through. Classic losing track of him a bit here as he tries to harass both bases simultaneously. There's actually not that many units back home. A whole bunch of Banelings ready to crash through. He's got the sentries for force field, but that's a temporary measure. Beautiful force field on one side. Shield battery overcharge. Classic. An immaculate defense. About perfect so far. Shield battery overcharge. Force field. Boxes out both sides. Uses the pylon. Gonna try to push it around the edge. And this is just a perfect defense. The force fields have been pinpoint perfect. And he actually just lets it through. He loses the pylon. And oh no, the Immortal! But somewhat amusingly, the Immortal not nearly as important as it is in almost every other unit composition. When you're up against Massling Bane, the one unit that isn't so great is Immortals. They're just good for how much HP they have, but they're not particularly great at taking down masses of Zerglings and Banelings. So far, so great with the defense for Classic, especially following up from a solid amount of damage with those early Adepts. But another army's going to be caught. The sentry should be in place. Doesn't even need to use a force field. Some real value on those sentries. And Dark is actually supply blocked at 98/96. He's only got 2 Overlords on the way. He has no more tech besides +2 melee and a Roachmore. No Hydra Den. No Infestation Pit. No Spire. Not even Baneling speed at the moment. So Dark has been leaning heavily on these Lings and Banes. He snuck out a few more Zerglings. But it's still a very low-tech composition. Classic actually has the army supply lead. Though he doesn't have anything that easily deals with mass Zergling in this army, he does have force fields and the sheer mass of it. The surface area that the Zerglings are going to be able to get is relatively small. Well, force field could be invalidated momentarily. Oh, beautiful force fields. He blunks over the top to the front line. Actually, a bit it wasn't quite perfect. He stops the bleeding. And the Zerg are everywhere now. And just one small mistake ends in disaster. He loses another Immortal. He loses the Warp Prism. And now he goes from a 10 supply lead to a 30 supply deficit. It's an absolute, utter, unmitigated disaster for Classic as Dark brings the Zerg to bear. And now, a very, very tough scenario for Classic to recover from. I don't know why he decided to commit. He correctly recognized, I think, that Dark was in a tough spot economically. But committing the entire army, none of which was really equipped to deal with Zerglings particularly well, no Archons, not even adding in more Adepts, far too ambitious. And now, Dark is again able to get aggressive, and this time around the sentries are dead. The Banelings close in. A disastrous Oh no. Classic. Wow. The army supply falls off a cliff. He missed one force field, and then the Ravagers came in, and then the Zerglings ran around, and... Oh, classic. I think he was playing it so well. Right up until he wasn't. Wow. Dark giving himself the opportunity. On defense, Classic just crushing it, but... that was just a huge mistake. And he recognized it far too late. The recall. Another one of those painful, sad recalls where most of the army's already dead by the time they actually go home. And clearly an indicator of panic as well. So Dark, not to be outdone, ties it up 1-1. And still, though, that adept timing put him in such an awkward spot. If Classic just plays that out defensively, gets to Archons, shores up the upgrades, it's a very hard game for Dark to fight an even money army. But Classic, Dark hit him with one of those mind tricks, like, oh yeah, you can definitely kill me now, bro. This was a totally all in. Just far too much out there on the field. Rarely do we see just a straight up mistake, but that definitely can be classified as it. I wonder if we'll see the adept timing again. I don't think that was the issue. It was clearly just the decision to move out afterwards, but the adepts still did everything they needed to do, which is keep the Zerg under control, limit the drone count, and kind of force them into this mediocre ground-based composition that gets easier and easier to counter with time, especially once Archons are invented. Now here we go. Game 3. Dark getting cannon rushed, and then adept all in, and now we'll see. Just goes for the third. Stargate on the way. Overlord will spot it, obviously. It's kind of its entire job. Adept Shade headed out. But there's nothing to stop the Zerglings from getting in and keeping tabs on things. Doubtful it'll kill much. Maybe one probe. Box is out. Actually, and the probe ends up killing it. Oracle's on the way. Yeah, I think the Adepta, it's so hard to outright defend. You can only, because anything that shuts it down entirely also cuts heavily into your economy as Zerg. You can't get roaches in high enough number early without delaying a whole lot of drones or your tech. You can't get enough Zerglings and Banelings without using all your larvae. So, but again, the hard counter to it, and the reason why it kind of fell out of style overall, is that 3-base Queen Walk build, which has not been as common. So the blank Stalkers deal with that a lot easier. That is why the default build for Zerg is not pulling the entire Queen Moot and strolling across the map. But against the Adepts, which don't have nearly the longevity against that sort of composition, it can be super effective. So, we'll see if Classic keeps it up, or if he decides to switch. Okay, he's just staring at this. You guys, you gotta stop. You cut it out. Intimidated. Twilight and Forge on the way. Likely the Blink +1 style. Keep them guessing. And the reason you can't figure it out beforehand is because seeing a Twilight or even a Forge doesn't actually tell you much. Until you scout the units they are physically building, you can't know for sure what they're doing as Zerg. You can take educated guesses, but right up until he sees like at least 4 or 5 Blink Stalk or Stalkers in general, that's when Dark can know for sure. Like last game, he knew it was Adepts because he saw that multiple warp-ins of Adepts. But even then, it was still a bit late in the game for it. 4 drones dead to a singular Oracle. which is a bit embarrassing. The timing did not work out for that drone transfer. Dark is shoring up the economy. He's got a roach horn on the way. Evolution chamber, lair as well. We got blink and +1 for classic. 4 more gates. Chrono boost and probes. Very mid-game style for either side. Should be the roach speed. Now the question is, does Dark have any sort of follow-up? Besides your basic roaches. Does he think he can get away with any further tech past the roaches themselves? Building so many drones. Almost a disrespectful amount of drones. Going up like near 70 drones. No, he's building all those gas geysers now. The moment the drones are coming out. He has not even started roach speed, which is a bit interesting. He has the buddy. That's a mistake. Infestation pit. Wait a second. Oh no. Is that Swarm Hose? Dark has been enjoying his Swarm Hose lately. Sir Richard and his merry band of Swarm Hose brethren. Infestation pit. Nearly completed. He hasn't started roach speed, which has to be a mistake, even if he is going Swarm House here, but... Moment of truth. Alright. Storm is on the way. A very helpful tool against all things on the ground, Zerg. 9 Swarm Hosts in production. As Dark again reaches for him. Roach speed as well, as he notices how slow those sloaches are. A very defensive game number 3 after some aggressive early matches. Storm is completed. Rock's taken down. The tension mounts. And it's that first Swarm Host wave. He's not even bothering with the Nidus. You can get it to the natural so easily on this map. Kind of using that small rush distance against the Protoss. Hydra Den on the way. Looking at Lurkers as a later game choice. Whips out a wave of Locusts. And now Classic. He's just sat back and built up. Preparing to deal with the Roaches. But now the Locust will drop down. He's actually just going to rip apart the Robo. He's working on all these Zealots that were just warped in a panic. And the Swarm Hosts. Oh, they almost depower the next Robo, but a great start. Taking out the robotics facility will limit the opportunity to build those and more. How many Robos does he have? Just the one for now. It's going to limit the best options against the Lurker Roach composition. And buy time to get that hive done. More Swarm Hosts in production. Looks like 15 or so is going to be that money number. Enough to potentially take out a base outright with Locust without being too much of his supply. Stasis covers the retreat, though. Storms wash away most of the Roaches and Lings, but Locusts are raining down. The Roaches are being obliterated, but another wave of Locusts. And so many units are actually caught in stasis. Locust dropped down. He blunked forward. Oracles are used to deal with Locust, which is not the ideal move here. And again, Classic getting a bit forward against an army that is designed to rip him apart on the open field. Still blanking. The Roaches and Lings are expendable for Dark. He's so good about keeping those core units alive. He's lost 1 Swarm Host. The Lurker Den is completed. Lurker range is on the way. Does he have any Hydras yet? Not yet. He's still leaning on the Swarm Hosts, which are clearly recharging to the north side. An Archon in red HP. Now that's a rare set. Almost taken out. Missile attacks level 2. Another wave of Locusts. Raining down on the natural. And just well, triggering stasis wards, but he staggered them out, so that way the stasis wasn't nearly enough. Can take down the shield battery, and maybe the robo itself. Indeed he does. He rebuilt, well, no, don't rebuild it there. Put it anywhere else. Another storm, but the roaches are chasing down. He takes almost maximum damage from the storm, and the blink stalkers will turn it around. The roaches trying to trade as best they can, and it's not going to be particularly great considering it's immortals and blink stalkers. He just gets up close and personal. He'll get like 1 or 2 more stalkers maybe. But the swarm hosts survive. He's still only lost 1. 10, 16 hydras on the way. Looking to intercept the swarm host, though. A bit of an awkward fight. May get 1. The Locust will cover. And the next wave is probably going to kill the 3rd attempt at a robo in that location. Locust. Does he see the stasis? He dropped. Yes. 100%. Not again. Okay, how many times do I have to teach you this lesson, old man? Shield battery overcharge is good, but Locust DPS is insane. Well, finally, with the overcharge, he'll be able to defend it. But mass Hydralisk, 19 Hydras, 7 Lurkers, still a dozen Swarm Hosts. As Dark. Wow, what an army he has here. Not great against Storm, though. You definitely do not want to be dealing with Storm with this. 4th base still intact. Overall Classic, oh my. Oh, those storms are absolutely devastating. Softening up the vast majority of the Hydras and Lurkers. Actually lost 7 Hydras there. Another wave. He's just going to drop down to trigger the stasis, which was optimistic at best. The Robo dies. This is the little mini game happening now at the natural. Just build it somewhere else, bro. You could go other places. No, that's the designated location. Anyways, the fleet beacon is lit as the Protoss call for something from the skies. One of the only reliable methods to deal with Lurkers and Swarm Hosts. But the Lurkers just slicing through, catching some of the Templar, doing a lot of damage to the Immortals. No Archons in the composition at the moment, as Dark is maxed out and closing in. Dark only on 4 bases. The minigame continues. Brenda! I don't... The Queens are joined up with the Swarmos to help against Oracles and just everything else in general. The Lurkers on the 4th base, but there's actually not nearly enough to break through here. Dark with 20 more Hydralisks in production. The cannons, the shield batteries, the bulwark is coming together. A mothership on the way for Classic. Mothership, not a bad counter to Swarm Host because the active cloaking is quite reliable. And right now, Dark, his anti-air is Hydras, which are technically anti-air, but so fragile and obviously struggling against Storm, just like the Stalkers are struggling against the Lurkers. 7 more Lurkers on the way. The Swarm Hosts, throwing a couple Locusts out, looking for more. The creep is most of the way across the map to the north side, though. The south remains mostly unexplored. Nidus Network finally on the way. Kind of surprised it took this long to get there. Dark has been maxed out, but without a lot of money in the bank as he keeps having to replace these units. Classic has held on to 4 bases. Remember, the Swarm Host started with Dark being nearly maxed out and Classic at 120 supply. Classic is now almost at 200, and Dark is still maxed. So, the army compositions have gotten more dangerous, more deadly. Time Warp is their detection. He'll take down the mothership, but the Lurkers were well covered. And with the Time Warp there, the Locusts are a bit late, and Dark gets swept from the field. But wait! This was a decoy, or at least Dark set himself up, so no matter what, he'd find some success. As he takes down the 4th base. Locust raining into the natural yet again. And Classic, he might be able to hold, maybe even win a battle. But the war is clearly going in the direction of Dark. Another set of Lurkers is crushed. But where's the detection? Oh no! And just when it looked like Classic may crush a fight and take a significant lead, he loses another chunk of his army to Lurkers that he couldn't see. And the Swarm Hosts He's only lost 2 of them, despite having them nearly at the front line of the fight. The Swarm Host usage has been near perfect from Dark, getting so much value out of them. And unlike back in the day with the Heart of the Swarm Host expansion, those Swarm Hosts really do take timing and micro. Because they only work about 1/3 of the time. The other 2/3, they're busy growing their babies. And the Swarm Hosts gonna cover for a Nidus. A carrier is intercepted by 6 Hydras. The Hydras big cushion the first carrier. The probe's under attack. We're going into a base trade. Lurkers will dunk down. The Queen's keeping them together. More Lurkers. Transfuses. Trying to hold it together. And he does have Oracles. He does have Observers. And he has a metric fuck ton of Immortals as he blasts his way through. The Immortals crush the Lurkers. And the Zerglings are going to come in. There's only 1 Archon. There's still a couple Oracles over the top. But Dark's base is obliterated by these Immortals. It implodes the moment they look at it. But Classic has no more economy. He's down to the natural, and Zerglings and Hydras are working on his fort. The Swarm Hosts are back. There's a recall. Down goes one Immortal. They'll expect one of us in the wreckage, brother. And Oracle's taken down as well. Dark maintains a 60 supply lead. Immortals trundling down. Dark Swarm Hosts continue to rampage throughout the field. He's still only lost 2 of them. He's lost 33 Lurkers to 2 Swarm Hosts. Viper's on the way. That southern base, Classic has not scouted it. It's disaster. The Locust coming again. He forces him to drop down, and he's on top of the Templar. He would have to storm his own Templar. He takes down several more of them. This battle's gone on for several minutes, but Classic's army is still dangerous, but he doesn't know about the bottom left base. He's long distance mining with probes. Dark is starving him out. And now another brave Swarm Host. Somehow it lives. Wow, what a bold move. Abducting High Templar. And hey, it works. Even before the feedbacks. The Storm's still amazing. The Immortal Templar composition, but the Hydra's the Lings. He's whittling it down. Another Immortal falls, and another one after that. The Zerglings on the only expansion with any minerals. Classic is bleeding out. But God, the Immortals are so good. He still has 9 Immortals. Dark's army is 12 Swarm Hosts, a handful of Zerglings. Getting smaller now. 7 Lurkers. And 3 his army without the Locusts loses. Thankfully, he has those Locusts. They rain down again. He's actually dodging the storms. May get the Archon. Another Immortal will be great as well. He's right-clicked onto the base. He loses another Immortal to the Locust, but down it goes. Hydras and Lurkers on the base. Classic. Will he check for it? The fact that this base has been mining. If Dark ends up taking this up, and he escapes! He escapes into the Nidus! Beautifully done. The Lurkers, he's gonna pig cushion some more Observers. He can barely build anyway. He doesn't have any more Observers. He has to spend his last gas getting detection. The Immortals take out the base. The Swarm Hosts are chasing it down, but he's able to recall back to a base with no resources left. Classic. He still has an army that is incredibly difficult to beat. It's just 8 Immortals and 4 High Templar. But that's still incredibly difficult to beat, based on the fact that Dark continues to avoid it and only takes fights around the edges. But at some point, the Swarm Hosts will be able to continue fighting on Classic side of the map. I think that point is something we just reached. The probes are coming with the army. The Locusts are thrown out again. He's just gonna have to avoid the wave. And Dark has prioritized Lurkers and Vipers and Hydras and Lings back at home. Still has only lost 2 Swarm Hosts as these Swarm Hosts continue to trundle along, somehow slipping away from the Protoss army at every turn. And Classic, even the Spore Crawlers making the pilgrimage. What a hectic game, but it feels like Classic just getting whiplash from dealing with Dark's style. Dark just refuses to face it. He just keeps throwing pocket sanded locusts behind it. May lose another Swarm Host here, but he staggers out the Locust waves. Beautifully done. He gets the Templar. Oh, they're all dead. And with it, hope. The Lurker count is way too damn high. Blinding Cloud yanks in the Immortals. Get over here. And Dark eviscerates Classic for the revenge kill. Maybe it shouldn't have even gotten to that point. Maybe Classic should have been able to hold in game 2. But Dark certainly struck back with a vengeance in game number 3, bringing us to our bonus match of Clem versus Solar. Yes. Not the one we've already seen, but another match as well. They faced in the same tournament. But I have some one-off matches that I wanted to check out from some of these top players as well. Now, you thought that game would go on another 20 minutes of crazy base trades. And you know, it maybe could have if Classic was able to. Maybe if Classic would stop building his robo in the exact location, the locusts keep raining down, but it's hard. Kind of feels like players get locked in sometimes. Well, we're back on Site Delta. Though the names have changed, the game remains the same. Clem in the red, Solar in the bottom right, in the blue. And another moment to talk about that last series, which Dark barely takes at the end. I think Classic is caught somewhat in that uncanny valley. He really likes that late game Protoss composition style. That's historically been his most successful. But at the same time, Dark forces the issue so quickly before you can get your army together. Classic had a lot of trouble transitioning out of the Adept Glaive build in game 2. I see why he didn't want to try it again, as Dark very likely would have been ready for it, but it feels like if you just play Blink and +1, you're playing his game. And, well, that does not spell success for most players. It actually goes to take the other third base before the Reaper comes in. Solar, a bit clever there. Dodges the hits. Clem bounces himself around. The Zerglings getting caught on attacking the unbuildable rocks. That's part of the reason players will take them down at some point when they got some free time so they don't misclick it like that. And of course they're there to prevent you from getting cannon rushed or double bunker rushed at the bottom of your ramp. It was more relevant back when you started with 6 workers, because it's immensely hard to deal with something at the bottom of the ramp. You just don't have the surface area. We've universally determined that cheese was just a bit too filthy. So at least you got to go to the top of the ramp now. But that's why they exist. Third command center on the way. And Clem? Oh my. He's doing it again. Clem, MD. Takes out the tumor. Queens will put another couple down, but Roach weren't on the way relatively early. Don't think he's gonna do a big Roach all-in, but it's on the table. He's got 200 gas in the bank, which is an odd thing to have if you aren't going to go Ravagers. There is a Banshee with Cloak in production, though. The triple bounce. Roaches in production. 6 of them so far. The queen's still boxing out. Adding a few more drones. So just the deflection roaches. Enough to cause Clem to maybe panic. Oh, the circling speed isn't done though. The Hellions will dart in. The roaches will pop out at that moment. More roaches coming up. Clem. Not? Well, is it an inopportune timing or is it perfect? I think the first one. He's gonna kill 1 drone. An important part of this though is that he kept the roaches all the way back. Wait, did he see the lair start? No. It was a little bit after the vision faded. There's a split second after a unit dies it can still see with its dying breath. You gotta be a little careful of doing that. It's like half a second, but still. Banshee Cloak completed. Now the roaches not really gonna have any opportunity to do anything aggressive. They did their job of keeping the Hellions away. And Clem will build a bunker, just to be sure. Three more racks on the way, looking pretty standard so far. Evo chambers about 30 seconds later, then the engineering base. So that should translate into Clem having a slight upgrade advantage. The lair's not quite done yet. And that means the queens... It's actually just killing roaches. He's working on the drones here. Kind of hard to target them with all those units underneath, which I think it was Solar's intent. Focusing. Even working on the queen. Almost gets her. Another drone for the road. And an infestation pit on the way already for Clem. No, not Clem. Solar. Alright, you know what I meant. Hopefully. Solar, get out of the way! Actually, it ends up working out. The queen's jaw... Oh my... Could you... No, no, no beef. Thank you, thank you. God damn it, Lucille. I don't... Melee attack and Carapace is the choice. Solar making the big switch into Ling Bane. Well, I take that back. He doesn't have a Baneling nest. Hopefully he realizes that before the time comes to use it. As, it's only Roach and Ling speed right now. No Baneling nest on the way at all. There it is. Infestation pit is done. Hive should be next on the agenda. Clem, 70 SCVs already. Oh, and he has so much production as well. He's going for the double factory flavor. So mass siege tank, as opposed to the more marine-focused build. Against especially roaches, definitely a more stable composition. I think I'm pretty comfortable with the position he's in right now, as he did enough damage and kept Solar busy enough. And now he's going to have 1-1. He's got Stim Marines. He's got Medivacs. What's not to love? He needs combat shield as well. Picks up all 16 Marines and heads out. Combat shield completed. Got siege tanks on the way. All these upgrades completing for Solar. But Clem, he's got 2 2-star lanes now going up to the 8. Oh my. Guns down the queen. Chasing. Actually feeling like he can get more damage done. Picks up all 16 Marines. Another army over to the left flank as well. Ultralisk Cavern begins. As Clem starts things off, but a scan. A scan will spot the timing. He knows exactly what he's dealing with. So does Clem get aggressive or defensive? Down goes a Banshee. It appears he sees a window. Knowing the Ultra Cavern just started, there's a minute and a half at least until Ultras with armor can be out. That is a lifetime, potentially, for the Zerg. The army swinging in. This hatchery just finished. And There are 14 banelings on the way, but what does Solar actually have to defend this directly? The double drop from the north side, he's keeping some banelings here, but he just takes down a hatchery. And the other base is a freebie as well. Solar he's going to lose 2 hatcheries for effectively free. Clem is maxed out while doing all of this at just over 9 minutes. Solar tried to speed run Hive, but now Clem is hamstringing him dramatically. I don't think you could just skip to Hive and hope for the best against someone of this caliber. And the Queens are gonna eat some of the shots. The blinding clouds could be devastating. But Clem backing off. He has a little bit of space, gunning down the banelings. Oh my god, banelings are no object here. He's actually chasing banelings, which is kind of hilarious. Dodges corrosive bile. Couple more banes. Hits the target. And he's still going to work. 2-2 about to complete. Adrenal glands as well, but I don't know if Zerglings are ever going to be able to close the distance. Parasitic bomb, but the Marines are dropping out. The Ultralisk. Oh, get over here and get off my tree! He takes down the medevac. But Clem has all the momentum. He's building ghosts. He's got the upgrades. He's got more command centers on the way. He's got plenty of economy. In fact, Solar still has a lot of drones. He just doesn't have enough places to mine from. But the army with ghosts is moving out now. 4 command centers at a time for Clem. Well, the tanks are spread out. How many Ultras? 3 Ultras on the field. There's going to be 1 Viper. But the Ghosts already lighted up shots on the Ravagers. Solar bleeding out a lot of his units before the fight even starts. The Ghost looking for some shots. Knock out one of the Ultras. Just keels over. The siege tank's in a beautiful position, lines up the shots. The Ultra can't close the distance in time. The banelings aren't remotely close to enough. Another Ultra from the north side. More shots from the south. Down it goes. Marines hold their ground, and Clem guns him down. A comfortable victory. A textbook execution in every sense of the word, as Clem crushes through Solar, demonstrating why you don't usually rush Hive before you're able to get enough on the ground. Wow. It's looking like a ladder game for Clem, but Dark with the dramatic turnaround, Clem with the decisive victory. Hopefully, either way, you enjoyed. And thank you for watching. And if you got the means and motivation, be awesome. You can check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free for now. And if you're looking for Stormgate content coming up, if you're watching this in the first couple days, it's coming up next week. Okay, I guess we're not looking for Stormgate content. That was an odd one. At least it happened at the end. You made it to the most dramatic, like all the power went out. So it's a sign to like and subscribe so I can have my own. Oh, that's probably not good. Jimmy, edit it out. Thank you for watching. See you next time. If I make it through this. Stay chill.